Good morning. Thank you so much for being here this morning with us. I'm Whitney Cadet. I'm the chair of YPOWR, and I'm so excited for our second session of our three-part CEO series. Before I introduce our speakers, I want to take a moment to thank our gold sponsor, St. Mary's Hospital, and our host sponsor, McDermott Performance Solutions, for making this event possible for us today. Today's speaker is Kristen Jacoby, President and Chief Professional Officer of the United Way of Greater Waterbury. She earned her undergraduate degree from the University of Connecticut and her master's in public health from Southern Connecticut State University. Additionally, Kristen earned a second master's degree in business administration from Columbia University. Kristen is joined today by her lifelong mentor for the past 20 years, John Brubaker. John is the principal of Professional Resume Plus, an author and a graduate of Yale University. Join me in welcoming Kristen and John.
So, having been in the business that I've been in, helping people package themselves and their careers, I can tell you something that you may not know that is very, very important. And that is there are people in this room who will, over the course of the next 20 to 30 years, do some astonishing things, great things, innovative things, things that impact your profession, that impact the community and impact the world. And it's really special to have this group together, and I am just excited to be here. Have any of you ever heard of the term mastermind? Any familiar with a mastermind? That was created, the concept was created in 1937 by a man named Napoleon Hill. And he wrote a book called Think and Grow Rich, which is one of the, other than the Bible, is one of the best-selling books of all time. Translated into multiple languages, and many, many people of high achievement have said, I read that book when I was young and it was fantastic. Napoleon Hill defined mastermind as two or more people working together in complete harmony on an agreed upon objective or objectives. And the cool thing about this group is it is a type of mastermind. I've known Kristen since 1999, and she had done a long stint with the American Cancer Society. To me, a great lesson in that she kind of started off and just never looked back. But she's always been about producing the next result. When she leaves here, she'll be about producing the next result. Then she had kind of a sabbatical job, 1999 to 2000. She got out of this nonprofit world and got into American Medical Response, business development, and then, in my view, kind of caught her wind and refocused on her purpose, I think, in life, her professional purpose, and that is to lead in a nonprofit. And she's been the president and the chief professional officer for the last 20 years. The two things I would say in introducing Kristen is integrity above everything. She is a person, and you will find people in life, and I know you know this, that talk a good talk. And then there are others who walk a good walk. But it is very, very rare to find somebody that can do both of those things. Kristen has a wonderful talk, wonderful things that she can say and ideas, but she has an even stronger walk. And it is the things that she does when nobody's looking that really impact her job. Second thing is integrity above everything. She is someone who, when you're in a crunch, she's going to be doing the right thing, not always the convenient thing. And so with that, I would like to introduce Kristen and talk about this issue of complexity. And we're in a world of complexity. We get bombarded with information. So Kristen, what would you say is the most challenging part of your career?
So we talked a lot through this of what would be the most challenging, and people talk about work-life balance and all these other things. For me, being in a nonprofit and being at United Way is really these really complex, enormous issues that we're trying to attack every day. It's our team here at United Way. They're complex, they're interrelated, and they're not easy. And so every day we go into this, we can't dial it in. If we dial it in and don't do our best all the time, That is truly the difference between someone getting food, someone getting shelter, or even a job. So every day, our team is looking at this. And so when I look at what we do, we talk about the building blocks for a good life, right? A quality education leads to a stable job. You can then provide for your future, for your family, and access to health care. That's what's so important. And so when we look at our ability to bring people together, to bring businesses together, we're trying to make long-term change. It doesn't happen overnight. You got to keep at it, but it's tough. You get some setbacks, you work together, but it's about community, it's about collaboration. You can't do it alone. And it's individuals like you coming to the table, being interested in your community, that is truly making the difference in our work, being a volunteer-driven organization, really trying to pull together resources, human and financial. So thank you for being here today. I truly am grateful.
Amen. I'm kind of going to introduce this overarching topic of think for yourself, and I need to credit this to a talk that I heard, a valedictory type talk at Hall High School in 1993 in West Hartford, Connecticut. And it was given by a young man named Michael Schur. And I was really impressed with the clarity of it, the simplicity of it, the power of it. And what do you tell the graduating class? Michael's getting ready to go off to Harvard and slay dragons and so forth. And he was trying to think, all right, what's the message that I would give it? The message, think for yourself. I thought, that is simple, powerful, and good. Michael went on out of Harvard to had his first job. Actually, he slept on somebody's couch for about 6 months and did SAT training in New York. And then he got pulled in by Lorne Michael, and he became a skit writer for Saturday Night Live. And while he was a skit writer, after 3 years, he got promoted into the Weekend Update section. Any of you familiar with the Weekend? And the talent that he worked with, and I used to go to cast parties with these people. It was so cool.
We want to go.
Tina Fey, Jimmy Fallon, Seth Meyers, Amy Poehler. So he had a very fast start to his career. But then things really took off for him. Michael created a TV series called The Office. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it. And he was the writer for the skits for the first couple of years, and Steve Carell was at his wedding. From there, he went on to create Brooklyn 99, Parks and Rec. Any of you have seen Parks and Rec? I'm going to give you a little insight. The characters in Parks and Rec were developed by Michael's summer job at the West Hartford Parks and Recreation Department. So you're seeing some Connecticut history there, and now he's doing Brooklyn 99. So, now he's doing The Good Place with Ted Danson and Kristen Bell. Multiple Emmy Awards. And the reason I'm sharing all this with you is some of you in here are going to do even more amazing things. But this is what Michael was thinking about when he was 18 years old. Think for yourself. So that's kind of the theme for the day. So,
Are you going to tell him who he is?
Oh yes, he's my stepson. I forgot. Jeez, I forgot to mention that. Yeah, Michael is my stepson. Yes, yeah. That's why I used to go to. That's why I used to go to those cast parties. Yes. So and it was cool. I mean, Coldplay. I mean, we saw these really cool.
And I've known him for 20 years, and you just told me that.
I used to hang with Will Ferrell. I mean, it was an unbelievable thing. Cast parties was unbelievable. Yeah, I forgot that.
Yeah.
Minor detail.
Yeah.
So we help with collaboration. Yeah. Mastermind. There you go.
Well, and when we thought about that, and we started to talk about, my career and my life and things that happened, and it's a really silly story to share with you, but it really has framed that level of importance of integrity and character and values. And when you make those decisions in life, no matter how seemingly small, it could change your life, and it does define you. And when you lose confidence, people lose confidence in you, it's not that easy to get back, especially when it comes to trust. So this is a story you can't tell anybody. My parents would kill me for telling it. But when I was 14, 1981, on the playground at Memorial School, a group of girls hatched a great idea. And it was to bring alcohol on a Washington, D.C. class trip.
Oh!
I know. And, for the record, I did not drink, right? And so that made the whole thing even more ridiculous. But we brought alcohol. 2 of the girls got caught, right? And got in trouble. I came home and I had to tell my mother, I felt tormented, right? Like I was involved, I did it, I didn't drink it or anything, but did it. I was part of it. And my mother never told me what to do. She didn't tell me to confess. She never, ever, ever told me what to do. And I decided I personally had to be straightforward, be honest. And I called Mrs. Pullen, who was the meanest teacher in the world. She came over, sat on my stoop, and I told her that I was one of the people that were involved in this incident. So I took responsibility for my actions. I had consequences, 2 days out of school, suspension, stripped of any of the awards I was getting at graduation.
Oh.
And the worst of it was disappointment in my father's eyes when I had to tell him that this was something that I did. I could still cry over it, that something that I did. But I truly believe, like, I did the right thing in taking responsibilities. I didn't think for myself is the bottom line, but I had to take responsibility for what I did, because we talk about it in our office all the time. Like, if you're going to lie about the small things in life, then when are people really going to truly believe you about the big things? And at United Way, we talk about if there's a mistake. I've made a million mistakes in my life, and I still do. But if you attack them straight on, deal with them straight on, they can always be fixed. And so I just think that when we were talking about think for yourself, this is an example that really I didn't, and there was consequences for it that still I feel bad about at whatever age I am. So.
Yeah, and I want to just jump on this just briefly, because Kristen is not a person who is prone to either self-promotion or sharing some of these things. And when we got into discussing this whole thing, our purpose was to try to share things that might be useful to you. And because one of her other principles in life is play all out, she realized if I'm going to play all out, and if this is really going to have integrity, this meeting, this discussion, it can't just be a nice sort of packaged thing off. It's got to be from the heart. And so it was unnatural for her to talk about, show these things, that she has this other life, the risk taker, and sort of a little bit of a structured wild child type person. and she just shared that with you. But if that is a great example to me of doing the thing that's a little bit more difficult, but is the right thing to do and the integrity thing to do, that's her career in a nutshell.
Part of the 18 years at United Way too, like it's changed all the time. Things are always happening and changing. There's crises, it's always a challenge. And so I drive that home, because 18 years at organization, thank goodness for such an awesome team that I work with every day. But it's just never the same because of those complex issues. The other piece about thinking for yourself is you are and will be serving on boards in our community, and you really do need to think for yourself, because you will be in situations where your decisions are big consequences for those nonprofits. Whether you're on the Chamber Board, the United Way Board, you really need to be able to take in all your information, learn from others, and then make your own decisions. And it's groupthink that gets you in trouble, right? And so if you don't raise your hand at the board meetings, put your hand up. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, sometimes it's awful, sometimes people aren't happy, but you've got to ask as many questions and get that knowledge and information. So at the end of the day, you believe in yourself and that you believe that you've made those right decisions.
What a beautiful thing. So let's talk about, this is a big nugget here, and if you're looking for things to walk away from this meeting with that you can maybe use in your fertile mind and start to integrate. We talked mastermind already. This one coming up is a big one, the trusted advisors. They're building a cabinet of trusted advisors. So
yeah. We talk a lot about, and looking back on my whole career in my life, about trusted advisors. Like Robin Sills has been in my life since 1990, right? Back there, Robin. We were 10, but...
I've been in Megan's life longer.
But looking back, and people that you rely on, and trusted advisors, and the people that you can go to are just really, really important. There's trusted advisors, there's people that you'll have longer relationships with, and then there might be people that are just experts that you need to reach out to. But with trusted advisors, I think the hardest thing, and talking to different individuals and different generations, just understanding that the first thing you have to embrace is that you don't have all the answers, and it's okay. Like, we still don't have all the answers, and that knowing that when you need to reach out and get that help, or knowing when you need to get an expert to help give you more of that knowledge that I was talking about, so you can make the right decisions. also being positive and believing that there are other people out there that do have the answers. And you can easily go to them and start to learn and start to take that all in, so once again, so you can make your own decision. And then thinking about how you're going to investigate how to get to those people. What are those techniques you're going to use to identify those people that can help you get those answers that you need?
Yes, and fortunately, when Kristen and I were starting, I don't think Google had been in existence since then. But one of the things that I have noticed about your generation is a tremendous fluency with the technology, search engines, and so forth. So what you want to be doing on this, sort of two steps of this. One is the person that you would reach out to for some expertise. And just what she said, you know that there's an answer, I know somebody knows it, I just got to find them. Sense of urgency. And second thing is that sometimes those experts, subject matter experts, can evolve into become trusted advisors. But you all want to be thinking after you leave here is, well, who is my trusted, who's on the cabinet right now? One of your parents or both of your parents could be in there, a couple friends, but really be thinking about cultivating those relationships and who's on that sort of top 5 list. So, go ahead.
Yeah, we talk about like the top 10, but really, once again, what's a trusted advisor? It's a mentor type person, right? But it's someone that's going to give you information and knowledge. And what I found with people in my life is that they have the courage to tell me things I don't see in myself. They're not always pretty, but they're going to be honest and they're going to be direct, and they're going to help you know that you need to grow and to be aware of your own self and certain things that you may do or may not do when you're at your best and or at your worst. That I think they're individuals that I've seen in my life to stimulate my personal growth as well as my professional growth. Boundaries is another one, helping you kind of take a step back, slap you upside the head, saying about focusing on priorities, kind of just giving you some of those limits. Sounding boards, highly recommend, and I'm sure you all have sounding boards, but that is one of the most important things, because if you don't have someone to turn to that you can really trust to talk about these challenges or what you're up against or something you're not sure about, unfiltered opinions, you'll drive yourself crazy. And so you really need people to turn to be able to work through some issues with you. Once again, trusted advisors are that connector. Get them to use their resources, their connections to help connect you to other people. The other thing I think that what people have shared with me is how to prevent you doing things that, may be kind of difficult, like you not knowing and making a mistake. These trusted advisors, they can tell you they went through it, right? They can tell you about it before you even have to go through it and relieve some pain from your life, right? So I think that's one of the things about all the trusted advisors. And in my life, over and over, and it still gets me in the heart, in all honesty, of being a nonprofit for this long, people want to help. Yes. People get so many levels of satisfaction by helping. So when you ask that question, you reach out, people are thrilled. I just met with one of our donors who actually was one of the men that started ESPN, and I was kind of talking through some of this with him, and he said, if someone called me, especially an emerging leader, and had a question or wanted help, he goes, I would drop everything.
Yep.
That is what leadership is about. It's helping other people be successful. And I think that's where, once again, there's all sorts of trusted advisors, there's all sorts of people that fall into that, but to start to build that and to build relationships, that's the one. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, and I just started to jump in, but I have a little technique, and probably everybody knows this, but if you don't, this is pretty golden. If you're trying to figure out, I got to talk to somebody in XYZ company, you can go to LinkedIn, and if you have the thing where you can do the search, and you've got some categories, I'm not sure whether it's a premium or not, type in the name of your college and the name of the company and hit return. And you will find people, in many cases, that I had a woman that got an interview with the Boston Celtics. She's just getting out of Providence College, and they had hundreds of people work for the Celtics, but there were 3 that went to Providence College. And one of them said, oh yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I can see that. I'll just walk the resume, and I know who the person is. Right. That college affiliation, and because what sparked that with me is as crazy busy as we all are. So if somebody came to me and said, "Oh, I went to Yale, da 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 da," could you? Oh, what? Sure, I would throw everything aside to do that. So it's a great point.
And we talk a lot more about this. I think in nonprofit, we're more used to like calling up and asking people for help, right? Whether it's corporate sponsorship or being part of Fed races or doing a campaign, like we're accustomed to that. I don't know, and what my conversation's been, it's not as prevalent in like a corporate workplace type of thing. In that people question, is it a sign of weakness? It's not a sign of weakness. It shows you're brilliant. Asking for help shows that you're brilliant, you're smart enough to know when you need a little bit of assistance. So I have to say, I mean, John has been one of my trusted advisors for 20 years, though he didn't tell me about your
I
think I have an issue with it.
I told you at the right time.
I was not at my class parties, but you know, and think about, like John shared with me this morning, his 10,000 clients worldwide, right? Does he really need to be helping me right now? No, but he on his own is coming here to be part of this conversation because he values it. Joe Bugliotti is a major one of my trusted advisors. I could count on Joe to be my sounding board and to give me very honest and blunt feedback. He'll tell me exactly the way it is.
Yep.
And I tell you, every single day I respect the blunt feedback, whether it's what I don't want to hear or not. Like, and someone just tell me, you know, bull, right? Totally good at that. But Sandy Senich also, she's a person in my life that, though she's my friend, she was the toughest board chair I ever had. She helped me set boundaries and priorities and would push back on me all the time. Pat Mellett, who worked at Webster and at the Chamber, I would call her time and time about corporate governance and even understanding how do we do minutes better. Like, all different people in all different parts of the field are just really, really helpful. I do want to say, I did have one experience. Bill Andrews, who was the CEO of Scoville Manufacturing, it's a big business in Waterbury that's been out of business for a long time. And he was a trusted advisor, and he told me exactly what I didn't want to hear. Because that's the thing about trusted advisors. They could tell you things that you don't see in yourself. And so I worked at the Cancer Society for 10 years. He basically was like, you have got to move on. I loved what I was doing. I had like just secured my first $100,000 gift. Years before I did Relay for Life, the goal was $25,000. First year raised $150, second year raised $300, third year raised $500. Robin was right there with me, right? So excited, right? And he's like, no, you've got to move on. You are too young to be in one job for that long. And I was like, really? And so what happened was, just as a kismet happened, and all of a sudden I got a call from another CEO that I built a relationship with from the Cancer Society, who was a pretty funny guy. And he called me one night and he said, listen, I want you to work for me. I want you to be at this company. I will write the job description that you want. Wow, that's a dream, right? And so I was Director of Business Development and Corporate Relations. I was thrilled. Jumped into AMR. It's a fantastic company. It's, you know, it's national. I covered 4 states. There was all different people that were working with me. I was there for a year. And in my gut, though it was a great company and great people, it just wasn't me. Was it a mistake? Was it? Like, did my trusted advisor give me the wrong information? No, because I'm so grateful for that experience because it led me to United Way. Because then United Way called me and said, come consider this position, come interview for this position. End of the day, I had to do what was best for me, and the trusted advisor did direct me the right way. I got a little bleep in my screen, but once again, so grateful that I got to be where I am today.
That's beautiful. One of the things on this trusted advisor thing that you can look for is somebody who gets you. Somebody who gets you. Somebody who talks to you and displays like, well, how did you know this? A lot of insight. If any of you are familiar with Myers-Briggs, these are people that will rate high on the high intuitives. I'm a person of faith, and I was gifted by God with very, very high intuitives. And I can sit with somebody, and I have the ability to see the good in that person. And that's a lot of what I do. See the good in the person, then proclaim it to the world. But when you run into that person, wherever it is, who you think may be a good resource for you, and you just have that connection because they get you, they get who you are, they get where your heart is, that's a really good trusted advisor candidate.
Oh, absolutely. And bring you up when you're down and encourage you to keep moving forward. And here's just a couple of things what I saw as like the steps I would take. And it is funny because early days, right? Like Unfortunately, I didn't have Google and didn't have a cell phone or text or LinkedIn or any of that. But and so how you approached it, right, was really different. I think sometimes it was faster, to be honest with you. I don't know if Lynn agrees, but you pick up the phone and I ask Shay to do something and I get yes or no. But I think
It's old technology.
Yeah, so out of date.
I mean,
But it's really, it's. I think that it's your mindset and how you approach things and that can do, like, you're just going to make it happen. And I think that's what you do. And you figure out how you are going to get that information, who has it, and then just make it happen. And plead your case, I think it sounds pretty simple.
I tell you, that thing at the bottom there, you could take that one to the bank. A sense of urgency and an appeal that blends respect and altruism will win the day. Woo!
Yeah.
That is really good. I wish I wrote that.
I think you did. Anyway, but one of my other stories is, and this is another Cancer Society story, but it's still something that is in my heart, is that when I was 24 years old, I was at work.
This is the topic of sometimes.
Oh, you find the expert.
Sometimes you need to do the impossible.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yes. It was at the end of
I
it.
thought it was bungee jumping. But
And this, so speak to that. Speak to the fact sometimes you need to do the impossible and then tell the
yeah,
story.
I guess and it goes back to like saying how our United Way team can't dial it in. Like sometimes there is something that comes across your desk, personally or professionally, and you just can't walk away. That it's too important and it's too heart-wrenching to walk away, and that you don't know how you're going to do it, but you know by the end of the day, whatever mountain you've got to climb, that you're gonna make it happen. And this story was this for me. I was at the Cancer Society 24 at work after hours. No email, no cell phones, right? And the phone rings. I pick it up and it's this woman. I might get emotional on this one.
Yeah.
This woman was crying, and her 8-year-old nephew was diagnosed with cancer, and he was not doing well. And this boy's dream, his name is Mark, was to get a professional athlete's signature. Now, I know nobody, right? If I knew him and I knew that story, it would have been a little different. But I didn't know anybody, but I knew, listening to this woman on the phone, that how am I not going to get this dream for this 8-year-old, right? How am I not going to do whatever it takes, though I know nobody and I have no idea where to start to make this happen? So I started calling people, my parents, friends, all these different people, and I finally got myself to this FBI agent named Dick Genova. And the FBI can do anything really, right? And so he was able to get me Larry Bird from the Boston Celtics, major NBA All-Star player, Don Mattingly, who was from the Yankees, and he was actually captain of the team. And then I don't know if you guys would be, the Hartford Whalers. It was really long time ago, but the whole team signed a hockey stick for me. And so they arrived at my office. And then again, I'm at my office late one night, and it's funny because I vividly remember it. It looked over onto the clock tower. There was Robin remembers that office, all windows, and the clock tower was there. She called and she said he was doing really poorly, and that he was supposed to get a bone marrow transplant the next day, and that they punctured his lung, and they didn't think that he could go through the surgery. And I was like, oh my God, like, I have these items in my office. Like, I literally jumped in my car and went to Yale. I didn't bring my purse, I had no money, but I went in and I sat with Mark and this little boy, right, that was going through this the next day, and I was able to give him these signatures. And so it was just an award, like to be with the family and be with him. But the funny part of it was, so we as a community, I see, made this dream come true. But the best part was, he's doing great. Like, last I knew, he's doing great. I went to his birthday party. I actually found the pictures this week of me or him actually his birthday party. But the funniest part is that he kept calling me, like, hey, can you get me WWF? I don't know anybody. But it's the type of thing, right? Like, these trusted advisors are finding the experts. There's people that will do it for you. They will help you. They want to help you. They find satisfaction in helping you. And so just sometimes you just have to push it as far as you can to make it happen.
Can we give an applause for that story? Is that great? And that is and I hope that we'll all remember that when we go back and the cold wind hits our face and there's something that we have to do. And really that came from her desire to be of service and her desire to make a difference, and why she's here, my view, on this earth. Not just to consume things or to do things, but really to make a difference. And that's what we love about the United Way. That's what they do. And I think we're now getting down to the real crux of the matter, this question of trust and honesty and integrity. And it is something that is so easy to talk about and hard to do at the highest level. And one of the great things that when I met Kristen, nothing has surprised me about her career, because I could tell meeting her two things. One, rock solid on character principles and integrity and intent and heart, all of that was aligned. And the other thing, Energizer Bunny. I mean, she has always, I have a sister that was just like this, and she just has a lot of what we call in martial arts, ki, which is life energy. And I suspect every one of you has a lot of ki as well. So let's talk about the trust and the integrity question.
Well, and I know we understand that you all understand trust and trustworthiness, and that you, like, a lot of this stuff is you heard or you embrace yourself. So, but just the thing about trustworthiness is equally as important as trusting other people, right? Like, it's symbiotic. Like, you have to be able to trust people, but they need to be able to trust you. And once again, I think when those moments come, you need to make the decision whether you're going to be, what decision you're going to make and where you're going to go with it, to remember that, that together, those relationships with your trusted advisors about that. And that when you're looking at trusted advisors, there's something that I'm just going to talk about the ability to persuade someone over who you have no power to collaborate with you in pursuit of a common mission. And so when you're thinking about that, you are going to trusted advisors to help you. And so how more important it is to make sure that you build that relationship correctly, and that you're genuine. And like that, like, is the biggest thing about relationships, that it's that person to person. I think social media is extremely important. I think those are other touch points to people to help build your relationships, but really that person to person really makes a difference in how you can form those bonds, genuine, authentic bonds with people. And so you build that relationship so you can get that unsolicited opinion, right? That they will share with you what you need to know. But that building that genuine relationship, I think, makes all the difference. And it all really truly is based on trust.
Yep. I have something I'd like to throw in here. One of the greatest inaugural addresses in the last 100 years was John F. Kennedy in 1961. And he used this phrase, let it be known that the torch has been passed to a new generation of leaders. He was following Eisenhower. Eisenhower was World War II, and Kennedy served in World War II. But he was proclaiming the fact that there was this new generation that had grabbed that torch. And he was, in doing so, he was referring to a thing that had been written by President Theodore Roosevelt in the Army. At the time, there was no Air Force. And he was one of the first pilots that flew on behalf of the country in the military. And he was so dedicated that he wanted to serve, wanted to make a difference, and he died about a week before World War I ended. And here Roosevelt is grieving over the loss of his son, and particularly, could you imagine? Particularly because the war just was ended. There was no reason really for him to do that. And in his grief, he was talking about his son, and he was talking about the need to stand for service. And he used this idea of the torchbearers. And he wrote, that those who stand to serve, like you, are the torchbearers. He said, we run with the torches until we fall, content if we can then pass them on to the hands of other runners. I know you've heard this from older people like me, but it goes by so quickly. Have any of you noticed that? Can you think back 10 years and it seems like it was last week? It goes so quickly. So I just am so grateful to be with you, because you are the torchbearers and you are now running with the torches. And you want to just kind of close this out with our last points here?
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, I think I think you said it really in all honesty, is that we're grateful for you to be interested. We're grateful, I know Lynn feels the same way, that you're in the community and that you are going to be the individuals making our community the best place it possibly can be. And Chamber, United Way, we need you. We need your expertise. We need your thoughts and your feelings about what we're doing and how we do it, because it's the only way we can become better and better and better. And being a truly volunteer-driven organization, that's who we rely on, for individuals like you to make this work happen. So just grateful that you're here even this morning on a Friday at 9 a.m. To hear about some of the things that we think are important, or that I wish I knew 25 years ago.
Yep. And we have a nice, an interesting way to close.
We have a closing video, and then we'll do some questions and answers. So never give up, believe in yourself, and it's okay to get a little help. So now,
Yeah. So in an organization of volunteers, how do you had talked about challenging or sort of getting good ideas and being able to challenge ideas. How do you foster that challenge culture in an organization where people don't necessarily have to be there? They're volunteers, and may get offended or or if their idea isn't chosen.
My team could jump in on this too, but we have great volunteer leaders, and typically I'm looking to my like on a board of directors, like when Joe, who I was my board chair, like you work together as a team, and sometimes some of those messages come better from another volunteer to volunteer for like really in a challenge. But I think the passion and the work and bringing it back to the things that we're achieving, it kind of gets people back on the same plane. I do think the diversity of ideas though is what makes a difference, and you're always looking to be more diverse as an organization. You can always do better at it, but I was just thinking a lot. I was talking to Brian about this. I was on a webinar with Columbia, and they were talking about diversity, and a homogeneous group is going to make decisions faster, right, with no conflict, but that's not the right, those don't mean that those are the right decisions. So some of that conflict and pushback is a really great thing, in that when you have a diverse team, it makes everybody opens their mind that much more, and open to hearing and listening, and then there will be conflict. It's good conflict. sometimes they say on boards, if everybody raises their hand and says yes, you should probably start right all over again, because more people dialing in. Did people really take the time to think through the implications and the consequences, both to the organization, or in our case, the clients and the people that we're trying to help in our community? So I think it's, trying to be out there and keeping that communication going, and through a group of people, you tend to get to the right place. Like through my life, that's what I love about nonprofit, is that the groups of people and volunteers, 99.9% of the time, get to the right place. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Wow, that was a great question.
What's the best piece of advice that you've been given from a peer or trusted advisor, somebody on your cabinet?
I think listening. I'm not saying I could probably do a lot better at it myself. I think listening. I think listening to what people are saying at the table. People come from all different places and all different personal experiences, so you can't just assume that you know what they're thinking,
Yeah.
or one particular statement has a certain meaning, because it happens all the time, right? It happens in offices. Might say something and people interpret it differently. It might have a different meaning because of my own strategic intuition, the things that I've gone through in my life and everyday building blocks, right, of what I've experienced. It can be very different from somebody else. And I think listening is really big. I was telling Julie a story about at the Cancer Society, where I had a person come in, and it was a woman whose husband was diagnosed, and learning that she felt powerless, right, in this particular situation. And so that's not what I was thinking when I was meeting with her, and she had to be very, very open. We see it all. We have so many different constituents at United Way. We have our partner agencies that we're working with. We have 18 different community initiatives, which are hundreds of people from all sorts of professional backgrounds, other backgrounds, you know what I mean? And so you bring all these different groups together, and so how do you really get to the right place without really, really listening, and donors too, really listening of what is their passion, what do they believe in most, so you can walk them through the work of United Way. Once again, that's extraordinarily complex. In these settings or workplace campaigns, thank God for Works, because they develop our message, in all honesty, and try to bring it down to a message that people can understand. But when you look at the complexities of our work, it's really, really difficult to get that out to help people understand. And so it helps us to understand where people are coming from, then we can direct the conversation to their passion. So I think listening would be.
It's a beautiful thing here, in that in order to listen, you need to do one of the most difficult things in the world, and that is to be in the present moment. Now, most of us right now are in the present moment. And I call this going to the place where time stands still. When you're locked in a listening, communication type of a situation, you're in a timeless place. I read a story about Abraham Lincoln when he was president, and he used to have these people that would go in and ask him for this or that. And this man wrote the story. He spent 15 minutes with Lincoln. Lincoln sat down and said, "Now, I'm very busy. I'm happy to see you. Please tell me in the fewest number of words what you're here for, what I can do for you." And he said Lincoln really listened to him as if that was the most important thing conversation he would ever have. And people that are good at that, it's a wonderful thing to do. I like to say that I can tell a lot about where my attitude is in life by how many times I check my phone per day, and there's an inverse relationship. So the ability to turn off the cell phone, to turn off the information overload, and to be in the present and to do one thing at a time is very powerful and very counterintuitive to the bombardment that we get. But you'll find that really top people are able to do that. And they can block off time and lock in, and when they're with somebody, they can lock in.
Yeah, it's important. The other thing is I talk way too fast, so usually everyone tells me I gotta slow that one down. So I don't think I captured that yet. So. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It was so great that everything was so personal today. Thank you for that. In the spirit of passing on the torch, I mean, a lot of us are looking for trusted advisors or have them, et cetera, but we're also the next wave of them.
Yes.
So I'm just sort of wondering, from your point of view, what are the guiding principles that you go by when you're being a trusted advisor?
What a great question. Wow. No.
That's a really great question. I think, I do believe that me personally, or and anyone really does, in so many different ways, get such satisfaction in helping people. And so, and maybe because I'm in it every day, and once again, our Unite We team are calling people all the time and trying to build those relationships in different sorts of ways. But I think it's just being opening, like, and really trying to make that time. I'm not saying sometimes people aren't, like, you're like, oh my God, I have so much on my plate, but to really take that opportunity and sit down with somebody, I think is the most important thing, is kind of getting out of your own head and taking the ability to schedule that time, I think.
Yeah, I would say that I've had the blessing of 10,000 clients, and out of those, I have a couple hundred relationships of the type that I have with Kristen. People that could call me and we're just right there together. And for me, the defining thing is somebody that I really believe in. And, you know, I work with everybody, I love everybody, I enjoy working with it, but there's a small number of Kristens that come along. And when you find somebody that you just really believe in them, and because that could be so powerful to them at some moment of truth when they need somebody who just completely believes in them. Now, I had a very good friend who has passed on, and she had done something bad. She'd been arrested for it and so forth. And she was so embarrassed that I found out about it, and I knew it. And I just walked up to her at a meeting and I said, I just want to tell you something. I said, nothing I ever hear, ever, would ever, in the slightest way, decrease my belief in you, my respect for you, and I just want you to know that. And she was so relieved to hear that. You know, we all have problems and mistakes. Go ahead.
This is kind of related to what you were just talking about, but I didn't know if you could expand a little bit more on when you have chosen a trusted advisor. You know, you talked about how you've met these people throughout your life. What's the best way to keep in communication with that person and to keep your relationship going? So when you do need them, or you have to reach out to them, they're not like forgotten about you.
Right. No, I think that's a great point, because it is about always building a relationship. We know, right, from your friendships even, or your family, they need nurturing, and you need to have time, right? Or they go away, or they don't flourish the way they should. I think with trust advisors is always keeping them in the loop, like not only needing them, right, or wanting them, like the feedback from them, but letting people know when things are successful and thanking them. I think gratitude is one of the most important things, and letting people know that you appreciate them and their time and their feedback.
Yes.
I do once again think I get our ways to communicate, but it's person to person, and once again, growing the relationship, I think, and you know, being available to them too, because you never know with what your experience is may lead them or be able to answer them for them.
So I'm going to have a complete counterpoint to that point. And my understanding of these types of relationships is as follows. I could have a trusted advisor, somebody I'm close to, and I don't talk to them for 5 years. And they call me, and we're right there. Right there. That's the nature of these kinds of relationships. And so I think it's good, yeah, communicate, etc. Gratitude, absolutely. You cannot overdo gratitude. You cannot say thank you enough. My dad was in the World War II, and he taught me to say thank you to people that wear uniforms, like firefighters, police officers, and the military people. And I do not pass by at the Civic Center, police. I say, I just wanted to tell you how grateful I am for what you do. And I said, my wife and I are people of faith, that we pray all the time for God will protect you and your family, and we really appreciate what you do. My dad taught me that it's thanks to those folks that we all get to sleep well at night. And so the more I say that, the better it is. It's just better for everybody. So that's a gratitude piece, and just being a person of gratitude will attract those trusted advisors.
I think the greatest opportunity for you, and I I promise I'll get here, right, everybody, but like with the social media, like you have LinkedIn and you do have all these other mediums to get to keep those relationships going and learning about them along the way, right? And keep that communication. And I think that is also a wonderful tool that you have in your toolbox to meet people, find out about it, find those expertise, and then be able to reach out and keep in contact with others. I'm in the world of but there is people that you may not talk to all the time that will still be there for you, because once again, people truly get that satisfaction by helping other people. I see it every day. I've seen it for X amount of years, my whole life basically. And that don't ever underestimate somebody though, because they're just these amazing people that you wouldn't think might be that person for you, and they could be.
Wouldn't it be cool if we could all just meet back here in 20 years and see what's happened? You're going to do some amazing things. And the fact that you're here means you're really in the top 1% of your peers in terms of your mindset, your attitude, what you're trying to do, your heart. And your generation is going to blow away what other generations have ever done in terms of idealism, in terms of leveraging technology, in terms of quality of life and doing great things and the kinds of things Kristen spends her life on.
And thank you to our United Way team, because everything, a lot of times I'm up in the seat, but it's not me, it's our team that is completely phenomenal. And one of the things that I learned they're my trusted advisors. I will not, Glenn and Brian, they have a certain expertise that's what makes our world go round. And together we are making this incredible impact in the community. So I encourage you also to learn more about United Way, because we are changing lives, we are making a difference, we are making impact, and it's pretty special stuff. So.
Thank you, Kristen and John.
All right.